in dispute. Also, the Zawa security has been beefed up in Bawku ahead of the much-anticipated presentation of the Bawku mediation report to the presidency.
A lot later, tensions begin to rise in Tamale following the death of a young man who was allegedly shot and killed by the IGP's Special Operations Team.
It's News Central live on TV3. I'm Kemini Amanor.
And I am Mawuena Egbeta. The bulletin starts right now. A very big welcome to the bulletin. Now, some members from the Kusog and Mamprusi ethnic groups have resolved to accept the outcome from the Otumfuo-led Bawku conflict mediation. However, tension erupted on Monday just as the dying minutes of the final day of mediation, leading to a swift police and military intervention. Here's a report by my colleague William Evansinkum, which captures the entirety of happenings from yesterday.
It was heightened at the Mensha Palace hours before the arrival of the two ethnic groups. The Kusau delegation arrived at 11:30 a.m., 30 minutes before the arrival of the Mamprusi delegation. Outside the walls of the Mensha Palace, supporters of both ethnic groups gather in anticipation. Peace is the target, and both appear committed to ending the years of conflict.
Nina, the man pompo, you simply phone call inside the autumn for Becano. And on the in Abedis.
I think you ain't Yawaha. The prayer name say, I think you ever back. Then in international.
But a calm situation almost turned sour when a member of one of the ethnic groups was hit by a motorbike. A swift military and police intervention restored calm.
This is the Kusau just behind me. And from here, it's just a walking distance. Not even up to 20 steps. Then you also get to the Mamprusi. The only thing that separates them is this particular narrow road. And that is a very small gap. Now, to them, this has been the situation for many years. And today, they are expecting one thing to happen: a perpetual peace. Peace that will renew that restoration of the brotherly love that once existed between them. And they believe that whichever way it goes, they are ready to accept it. William Evans Inkum, TV3 News, Mensha Palace, Kumasi.
Well, that's Evans's report capturing the development from yesterday. We know that the Otumfuo Setutu II, who is the Asantehene as well, issued a statement, and we're just going to try and walk you through the details, where they, amongst many things, say that they will, in the coming days, submit his report and proposals to President John Dramani Mahama on the way forward in permanently resolving the decades-old Bawku conflicts. The Asantehene on December 1st, which was yesterday, concluded his mediation efforts in the long-standing chieftaincy crisis with a face-to-face meeting held inside the Jubilee Hall of the Mensha Palace in Kumasi. The Asantehene, in the statement, urged the leaders to begin preparing their supporters for a future without violence, stressing that harmony in Bawku depends on a collective commitment to coexist peacefully. The meeting brought together delegations representing the Nairi and Mamprugu traditional areas on one side, and the Bawku Naba and Kusasi Naba on the other hand. The Asantehene also reminded the leaders that regardless of the mediation outcome, the factions will need to live together as brothers and sisters as well. Let's get onto the phone lines right now. Speak to security consultant and lecturer at the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping and Training Center, Dr. Victor Docker, who's joining us this afternoon for a quick conversation. Doc, I appreciate you as always for joining us. You've monitored this work, although for a lot of us, we've been outside of it as the mediation conversations have happened inside, in camera, away from all media. What do you make of the committee's approach in dealing with the disputes, considering yesterday as well, there was jubilation to an extent from both sides that they had emerged victorious in all of the peace talks?
Yeah, right. So let me commend the committee, first of all, for good work done, and the Asantene himself for leading this process and then showing all of us that, yes, indeed, His Eminence can mediate on issues such as these, because this is a very sensitive conflict which has prolonged and with its associated violence caused all of us, the lives, financially and whatnot. So I think it's in the right direction that the committee has ended its work. Now, what is expected is what we are going to be expecting, that everything should go well with regards to him presenting his report. For jubilations, you would expect that the two factions would definitely jubilate because, one, the process has come to an end, and two, the opportunity for them to express their needs, wants, and then their desires has been taken into consideration. Having a mediator such as the king, hearing from the two sides is very essential in a conflict. So the mediator is no mean person, but someone who has exhibited neutrality, respect for the two sides, has recognized their customs and traditions, which is very key. And so with his position, whatever outcome that he puts out there to the president, the two parties would have to respect it utmost. Now, how do we ensure that when the outcome is put out there, and then it doesn't favor one side, how do they accept it? He has already ground that fact. The two sides have also, reiterated this position to their followers, that no matter which way it goes, we have to accept the fact. Ideally, in a situation such as this, we would want to see a win-win situation, but the dynamics and context of this conflict is different in such that you may not necessarily see a win-win, but a win-lose. Not a lose entirely, but a situation where one party would have to accept that this is not working for us. We'll have to find an alternative way in dealing with issues. And I think holistically, the process has been good. We've all seen the openness and transparency that has been associated with this particular mediation. And then what we are hoping next is the implementation of recommendations and proposals from the king in the report to the president. And I would want to reiterate that, one, implementation should be done in the right way according to what the king has suggested in the report. Neutrality is very key. Any political stance that would inflame passion should be avoided.
Right.
Stakeholders that have to play key roles would have to be also taken into consideration. If there needs to be capacity building and training for them, we need to do that. And this is the time on the ground in Bawku itself. There should be comprehensive education and sensitization on the need to sustain the peace now, before and after the report has been presented.
We're expecting the Otumfuo to submit this final work to the president in the coming days. At the presidency level, there is a certain level of expectation as well, and there's a rich background as to this. The president making a trip 1 week after he was sworn in, assuring that he was going to do everything to bring lasting peace to the township. What should be the expectation now of the presidency? We know there's been a security beef up in the township. You've mentioned sensitization amongst many other things. But should there be that extra layer of engagement as well by the president, perhaps, of the two factions again, in having them come to a head to say that whatever it is that we're receiving from the Otumfuo will be final, and I will need all of you to accept it?
Yes, that multilateral stakeholder engagement would definitely happen. It would include the security chiefs, it would include security agencies, the state agencies that are very critical with regards to peace and implementation of whatever necessary recommendations in there. And then also, let's factor in one thing. Now, the president hasn't nominated or appointed a defense minister yet, a substantive one yet. And I'm sure that will come before this high-level stakeholder engagement, because then you need a defense minister to be present to facilitate whatever recommendations and suggestions or proposals the King has put in there, so that collectively he can work with other heads, the interior minister, the service chiefs, and whatever, to implement whatever that is we have to implement for peace to be lasting. So that high-stake engagement will definitely happen between all stakeholders, not only the two sides, the youth leaders, community leaders, and everybody that matters, including the Bawku Inter-Ethnic Peace Committee. Obviously, most of them are also part of the committee that went for the mediation, so they'll be part. So this high-level stakeholder engagement would definitely happen, and I'm suspecting that it will happen next year if everything goes well.
Right then, Doc, I'm sure we can't leave it here, and we'll look forward to what the steps and the processes will be in the lead up to that final engagement and then the subsequent way forward. But as always, I appreciate you joining us this afternoon on the subject matter. And we'll stay on matters relating to security because we're taking you to the northern part, Tamale to be specific, I should say.
Indeed, over there, the Special Operations Team of the Inspector General of Police has allegedly shot and killed one person in a swoop at Polofong Forest, a suburb of Tamale. The deceased, believed to be in his early 40s, died instantly after sustaining gunshot wounds. According to some eyewitness present at the scene, the deceased, who is a passerby, was trying to escape on his motorbike from the sporadic shooting in the forest, but was allegedly hit by a stray bullet from the police. In a similar operation on Thursday, November 27th, the IGP's operation team stormed the Nobisco forest, burning tricycles and motorbikes belonging to some suspected drug traffickers. Now, tension is beginning to rise between residents and the IGP's Special Operations Team. Let's connect with our regional correspondent, Christopher Mwako. Chris, this must be a very scary development for the people in the area. What have we learned about this victim so far?
Kemini, this victim, according to the eyewitnesses around that area, yesterday was riding to town when he heard of the sporadic shooting around that enclave. And so because people were running helter-skelter around that area, he tried speeding off. He was stopped together with one other person by the operations team. In the course of the conversation with the police officer, he tried to speed off from the scene and unfortunately was hit by a bullet and he died instantly. Right now, as we speak, his body is deposited at the morgue as investigation into the matter continues by the police. But what we do know is that this is a young man from one of the suburbs in Tamale, and as indicated, the area where he comes from, the youth in the area are agitating and calling on authorities in the greater Tamale metropolis to ensure that justice is gotten for the deceased person.
Well, indeed, Christopher, so two things
is beginning to brew in the greater Tamale metropolis because
the
youth are divided. While others believe that the operation must continue, a greater percentage of them are saying that the operations team are overstepping their boundaries once a life has been lost.
Have authorities been able to say why there was sporadic shootings to start with?
Yeah, so you know that a special operations team is in Tamale to ensure that they bring sanity and also ensure that criminals within the greater Tamale metropolis are sent out of their hideouts, especially the various forest reserves in the greater Tamale metropolis. You talk about the Nobisco forest, you talk about a forest around the Tamale Sports Stadium, that is the Aliu Mama Sports Stadium, and one where this unfortunate incident happened around the waterworks area. And so when the incident happened, as we speak, Kemini, the Tamale Metro Security Committee is currently in a meeting. The Metropolitan Chief Executive of Tamale, Abu Takoro, has informed me minutes ago that they are discussing that particular matter. When they are done, a report will be sent to Accra for advice as to whether or not to continue with the operations and which, if they are continuing, how they are expected to go about these operations. But I must say, Kemini, that the operations has undoubtedly been very positive in some parts of the area, apart from this unfortunate incident that was recorded yesterday.
But 2 incidents in a matter of a week, we could say. How are residents responding to that?
Kemini, if you can come again.
Well, I'm saying that 2 incidents of this nature have taken place over a period of 1 week. How are residents responding to this?
Yeah, so the youth fronts especially are divided in their understanding and commentary about this particular issue. But for the death of the victim yesterday, the entire town was rooting for and supporting the activities of the special operations team of the IGP. But yesterday, when the unfortunate incident happened, the youth are now divided. A cross-section of them believe that the IGP special operations team are overstepping their boundaries. They are over-exercising what they are in town to do, to the extent that even if they are doing a good thing, to the extent that someone has died out of this, it means that their good has been turned to nothing. And so they should re-strategize, use other techniques to ensure that they go about their operations. Once a life is lost, it means that it will wipe away all the successes they've been able to chalk over the past days that they've been conducting these operations in the greater Tamale metropolis. And so traditional authorities have been petitioned by a cross-section of the youth. The Tamale Metro Assembly, that is the Municipal Security Committee, have equally been petitioned by the youth to ensure that the special operations team do their work without, first of all, harassing, secondly, also killing, and also ensuring that no life is lost in this operation.
Very well, Christopher, thank you so much for the reporting. We know you'll be following this story closely. Christopher Mwako is our Northern Region correspondent, bringing us that story. Here in the national capital, the Supreme Court in the coming days will hear a suit from embattled member of Parliament for Kwandai, Matthew Nyedam, who is invoking the jurisdiction of the court to annul a High Court decision that invalidated his 2024 election victory. The High Court Judge Manuel Batplanch, who ordered the rerun of the Kwandai parliamentary election, has explained in his reasoning that the scale and nature of the irregularities uncovered in the pink sheets made it impossible to isolate the problem to just the contested stations. Let's bring you a bit more from that application to the Supreme Court. Mawuena, what else are we learning? And
so we know Mr. Nyedam and the entire minority caucus have not been very pleased with the determination of the High Court judge in Tamale. They served notice they were going to challenge that ruling. There was one that was been put before the High Court. Now they've, the Court of Appeal. Now he has decided to take it a notch higher in terms of what he's going to be doing. And the first off is he's taken all of these to the Supreme Court, filing fresh processes seeking to quash the High Court judgment which nullified his election as a legislator. And here are the main concerns he's raising, that the judge assumed jurisdiction despite the petition filed beyond 21 days after the Gazette publication was made. And if you know, particularly for election petitions, it must be done before 21 days. And so it's very important, this time period he mentions, that it was done beyond 21 days. And then he goes on to say that, look, the petition was filed 32 days after the Gazette publication, also raising concerns about why the judge began to hear the matter in the first place, amongst many other things. And here are the reliefs he is seeking now: a declaration that parliamentary election petition, or that election petition, was invalid, and that praying the Supreme Court to deliver an order quashing the judgment of the High Court, and also any other orders as the court may deem fit. And these are the provisions upon which he's seeking to rely on in making the arguments that an election petition shall be presented within 21 days after the date of the publication in the Gazette of the result of the election to which it relates. And so 21 days after the Ghana Publishing Company makes the Gazette public, you should, if you're seeking to challenge the election results, do that within 21 days. He argues that was not done. Also, the time limit provided by this section for the presentation of an election petition shall not be extended, and representation of the people's law is where he's citing all of this from as a basis. And so that's the argument of Mr. Nyindam, reason why he is going to the Supreme Court and asking that they quash the High Court's ruling, which is seeking to have within 30 days a rerun of the Pandai constituency election. And we'll follow the subject matter and bring you details of it. But right now, let's talk education.
The West Africa Examination Council is probing a sharp drop in this year's WASSCE results, with over half of candidates failing core mathematics and a third recording F9 in social studies. While groups disagree on what caused the decline, the Ghana Education Service insists the outcome reflects students' true performance. Grace Hamwa Ajimang has more in this report.
220,008 candidates failed core mathematics, making it the weakest performance recorded in 7 years. Head of Communications at the West Africa Examinations Council, WAEC, John Kapi, says while the council is worried about the turnout, they suspect a lack of understanding of the questions resulted in the low performance.
In a casual conversation with my people in charge of social studies, I gathered that there was a little twist, if you want, of the question. Instead of the rote learning that we are used to, he asked them to apply the knowledge that they had, the various subjects. So, I mean, in that particular subject, the various topics. So it's not as if they drifted off the syllabus, neither did they put aside the test blueprint. And then looking at the questions and asking them to apply the knowledge, that is probably where he thinks the problem is coming from.
A total of 461,736 candidates from 1,021 schools registered for the examination, representing a slight 0.24% increase over the 2024 figure. For education think tank Africa Education Watch, this year's results show that students did individual work, a position shared by the Ghana Education Service.
Kofi Asare, who previously was relying on APO or relying on answers, collusion to pass, may now struggle, and his results will not be the same because he didn't prepare well. The policy regime. Look, we've been monitoring WASSCE since 2019. For the first time, the Ministry of Education, the minister pronounced that any teacher found participating in examination of practice will be outrightly dismissed. That has never happened. Because even in the GNS's own code of conduct, if you are found participating in examination of practice, you are, first of all, suspended.
The Ghana National Education Campaign Coalition, GNECC, argues that the abysmal performance calls for government immediate attention.
We have been advocating for targeted investment in both teacher training and educational infrastructure. in the education sector. Some of our schools these days are interested in preparing the children only to go and write exams and not to prepare them to take up the challenges of life. You know, if the child is prepared holistically and that child goes to the exam hall and then goes to meet a question, that is when the child is able to, or the student is able to apply what they have learned practically.
Former Dean of Education at the University of Ghana, Professor Jonathan Fletcher, says it is all-encompassing from teacher training to infrastructure and even the examination environment.
Teaching is not just about teaching people facts and them memorizing the facts. It's about actually teaching people, concepts and skills and things that will help them, in real-life situations. And therefore, I think teachers must start putting emphasis on application now. There is a new curriculum, secondary school curriculum, as you probably know, and that curriculum is putting a lot of emphasis on application and not just people memorizing facts.
Stakeholders may disagree on the causes of the sharp decline, but the common demand is for urgent action to prevent an even bigger decline next year. Grace Hamwa Ajiman, TV3 News, Accra.
I stay on the same subject because the president of the National Association of Graduate Teachers, Nagrad Angel Kabono, is calling for an urgent review of the country's education system to prevent what he describes as a looming collapse. My colleague Daniel Opoku has more in this report as well.
The president of the National Association of Graduate Teachers, Nagrad Angel Kabono, says this year's WASI performance highlights the need for a comprehensive review of the country's education system.
The system we are running, is it beneficial to our children? Is it aiding proper teaching and learning? Are we producing students who understand what they have studied to become worthwhile citizens of our society? Education should be reviewed regularly. Education is like life. You review life so as to enhance your wherewithal for the betterment of tomorrow.
He urged politicians to stay away from the day-to-day management of education and allow professionals to take charge.
Please, politicians should hands off education and allow professionals to run education in this country. The sole financiers of education is the taxpayer. The politicians are just the conduit through which the money passes.
Responding to the concerns, Press Secretary to the Minister of Education, Hashimini Mohammed, assured the public that the government is committed to addressing the situation.
Reverting the curriculum to the normal WAEC curriculum system where we can have students taking the exams at the same time other West African countries are taking the exams. So all these are enforcement mechanisms we are putting in place to ensure that the results that our students, our learners are producing are credible enough to compete globally.
Hashmin Mohammed revealed that the Ministry of Education will soon roll out a new strategy aimed at tackling the rising failure rates.
We want to end the double track by 2027, and we have initiated measures to end it. Already, about 100 double track schools have been reverted into single track. And going forward in 2026, we want to improve infrastructure across board and then also improve the training of teachers.
And most certainly, that WASI results are definitely of concern to all education experts and the ministry as well. That will take us on to our very first break here on the Bulletin. When we return, we have a bit more for you, and so please do stay.
It's still News Central here on TV3. Now, a revolution of confidence and leadership is sweeping through Ghana, with women taking up more sophisticated leadership roles. Our reporter, Asida Butchie, traces how advocacy for women empowerment has come and how the future looks like.
From the influential queen mothers who shaped traditional governance to the women leading in business, politics and science today, the empowerment of women in Ghana has deep and enduring roots. For generations, Ghanaian women have played a central role in community development, and in recent years, the push for broader opportunities has grown even stronger. In 1996, Ghana had about 18 women in parliament, representing roughly 9% of all MPs. Today, that number has more than doubled, with about 40 to 41 women in the legislature, making up around 14 to 15%. A major milestone was reached in 2024 when Parliament passed the Affirmative Action Bill. The bill requires that by 2026, women must take up at least 30% of all public decision-making positions, setting the country on a clear path toward gender parity by 2034. Ghanaian television host and development queen mother of the Efija Kwabre district in the Ashanti region, Nanajwa Awendo, spoke about Ghana's journey toward placing women in strategic leadership positions.
We have come far for us to be able to have women at positions all the way to vice presidents. A country that does not support women empowerment wouldn't have a vice president as a woman. Women at the helm of affairs, women at board chairs, women in various industries, in private entrepreneurship, and everywhere you find yourself, you can find women at the helm of affairs. As a woman, if you really want to achieve something, you don't sleep 24/7. Somebody will tell you when someone is praying at 12 midnight, you are snoring. How do you achieve?
Gender activist and executive director of the ACT Foundation, Dr. Angela Dwamnabwaje, also reflected on the progress of the women's empowerment movement and the gains achieved.
Things have changed. There have been affirmative action policies for getting more women into the universities, and now loads and loads of women are in the universities. So attitudinal wise, yes, people are more accepting of these things. They are not insulting people who talk about women's empowerment, women's human rights, things like that. But still, there's a long way to go. As a country, we need to sit down and ask ourselves, how far is far? Okay, Beijing plus 30 came up. As a country, have we done our own assessment, to know whether we are going forward in the way in which we need to go? Where are we flagging? Where are we lagging behind? Where are we doing well? And then we'll know how to tweak our policies and our systems to suit the place where we are now.
Some Ghanaians shared similar views, calling for continued efforts to ensure equal opportunities for women across all sectors.
Now you see women doing the most, but we have a long way to go. We need to encourage the young people to learn more and venture into these sectors too. I think the country and the government must encourage more women into the government sector to be voices for women as well as the country as a whole.
You can tell them, you can encourage them, but I think at the end of the day, it's up to the women to take a decision on whether to take leadership roles or not.
Indeed, the journey to empower women in Ghana has come a long way, achieving real impact. But, as many advocates emphasize, there's still much more work ahead.
Now, the Ghana Federation of Disability Organizations is urging government to fast-track the passage of the revised Disability Act to ensure stronger accountability. The Federation is also calling for the National Council on Persons with Disability to be elevated to the status of an authority.
The Ghana Federation of Disability Organizations says since the Disability Act, Act 715, was passed in June 2006, its implementation has been slow. The Federation raised concerns about missing provisions in the current Act, including measures for disaster management. According to the Federation, gaps in the current law continue to hinder access to education, employment, healthcare, transport, and justice for persons with disabilities.
We continue to face inequalities. We want a strengthened Disability Act that will modernize Ghana legal framework, ensure clearer institutional responsibilities. We stand ready to partner with government, Parliament, and all stakeholders to ensure that the revised Act is passed and effectively implemented. And what we are saying is that the time to act is now. Ghana must not delay any further.
The Federation is further appealing for the National Council on Persons with Disability to be upgraded from a council to an authority to strengthen its mandate.
We are also calling for the elevation of the National Council on Persons with Disability. We raise it from the current council status to an authority. We believe that when it's able to secure authority status, it will have its own budget. As it says now, the council's budget is a component of the ministry's budget, and we are having a lot of difficulties with that.
The former president of the Ghana Federation of Disability Organizations, Yao Ofori Deborah, lauded the government for implementing free tertiary education for persons with disabilities.
I assure you that all the tertiary institution authorities have been brought into the picture. They have been authorized to operationalize that commitment from government. I believe from this academic year, they are going to enjoy it.
Now, the government of Ghana and the African Development Bank Climate Investment Fund and Swiss State Secretariat for Economic Affairs funded program is offering free solar net meters and subsidies for households and SMEs to acquire new solar PV system. The net metering is an electricity billing mechanism that allows customers who generate their own energy through solar to export the excess power to the national grid and receive credit for it.
The net metering solar PV project under the Scaling Up Renewable program STRIP aims to contribute 13.5% of renewable energy, excluding hydropower, to the energy mix. It is also to help achieve universal electricity access by 2030. The project is offering a free net meter and capital subsidy to households and SMEs who would want to purchase solar PV systems of capacities between 2 and 10 kilowatts peak. It also seeks to install 12,000 net meter solar PV units. Eunice Brechum is Executive Secretary of the Energy Commission.
It is the culmination of over a decade of persistence, collaboration, and steady progress towards making distributed renewable energy, especially rooftop solar PV, a practical and accessible option for every Ghanaian and business.
Funding is coming from the African Development Bank, Climate Investment Fund, and the Swiss State Secretariat for Economic Affairs. The country manager for the African Development Bank, Jerusalem Fasika, spoke about the program.
The importance of renewable energy cannot be overstated. Ghana, like many nations, recognizes that reducing dependence on fossil fuels and expanding the use of renewable energy sources are indispensable to achieving sustainable development.
According to the Deputy Minister of Energy and Green Transition, Richard Jan Mensah, the project is a testament of government's commitment to building a resilient energy future.
Today, our non-hydro renewable capacity stands at 280 megawatts, representing about 5% of the national mix. With optimism, we are looking forward to achieve 7% by 2027 through strategic rollout of STRIP.
To benefit from the net metering scheme, a facility must have a solar PV system with feedback capability, a grid connection, and compliance with the local distribution and net metering codes.
It's News Central here on TV3. We'll be right back with more news. Don't go away.
The Ashanti Regional Health Directorate is raising concern over a widening HIV treatment gap that officials say poses a public health risk, despite notable gains made over the past year. Speaking at a media engagement to commemorate World AIDS Day, the Regional Director of Health Services, Dr. Fred Adomako-Boateng, said the region has made progress in enrolling more people into HIV care, but thousands remain unidentified, untreated, and vulnerable.
Out of the estimated HIV population of 63,159 in Ashanti region that are supposed to be on treatment, we have only 33,199 on treatment, representing 52.9% of those who are supposed to be on treatment. This means approximately 29,960 individuals either do not know their status or are not on medication. And this gap poses a significant public health risk. The only way to find them is improving testing, increasing awareness, and making prevention services easily accessible everywhere. To everyone listening to us today, HIV is preventable. HIV is treatable. And testing for HIV is free. Treatment is free. And treatment works. We must ensure that key populations, adolescents, pregnant women, and vulnerable groups receive equitable access to care and support.
Now, as part of efforts to reduce unemployment, the Millennium Development Authority is collaborating with other agencies to establish innovation hubs on some tertiary institutions in the country. Acting CEO of MIDA, Alex Mould, says these hubs, among others, will serve as centers to discuss and create jobs in line with government's 24-hour economic policy.
To establish each of these innovation hubs on every tertiary campus to make the transition from university to the job market seamless.
The idea here is how do we ensure that we can help reduce the unemployment, especially with our youth. So we're working with the universities to see how we can set up innovation hubs. We're currently working on one with the University of Ghana under the Ministry of Communications in Legon. The idea there is to have the infrastructure in place and bring in organizations that can train our youth to be able to do work that they will be getting from institutions outside the country.
MIDA, originally established to implement the US-funded MCC Compact, has taken on an expanded role as a national delivery agency for agricultural transformation efforts under the 24-hour economy.
Working with the 24-hour economy, the current thing we're working on is the Volta Lake Corridor Transportation Program, where we're going to improve how goods are transported using the Volta Lake and reducing the toll on our roads and also the expense. It's far cheaper using waterway than rail and far cheaper than roads. Bringing primary irrigation to these enclaves. And we're talking about 50,000 acre type enclaves, not small farms. Working with the outgrowers in that area as well, bringing anchor farmers, private sector to execute these.
Now, the Bank of Ghana is set to announce a new capital requirement framework for non-interest banking and finance, commonly known as Islamic banking. The disclosure was made by advisor to the Central Bank, Professor John Gachi, at the 2025 Continuous Professional Development and Induction Seminar organized by the Association of Certified Chartered Economists in Accra.
Non-interest banking and finance, NIBF, operates on Sharia principles that prohibit the charging of interest. Instead, it focuses on profit sharing, asset-backed financing, and ethical investments. The model has been expanding globally, with Ghana positioning itself to fully regulate and deepen its participation in this alternative financial system. Speaking on the topic, the viability of non-interest banking in capitalist economy, the advisor to the Bank of Ghana revealed that the regulatory framework is nearing completion and will be announced by the governor soon.
We expect some windows to be established. We also expect some fully fledged non-interest bank to be established. I'm aware some conventional banks are upbeat about establishing a window, and that will definitely happen.
The event also explored pressing global economic concerns. Senior research lead and financial consultant Dr. Edmond Nkrumah warned that escalating global trade wars are beginning to distort investment flows, disrupt employment, and slow overall economic growth.
Africa is just gaining about 0.04% of GDP. And why are we losing what? A lot, because Africa is not well connected with the international world. So Ghana, which is just like a $250 billion economy, definitely will shrink when there is, there's this form of trade wars.
Technology and data innovation also took center stage. Assistant Registrar at the Sunyani Technical University, Philemon Jaba, urged economists to embrace artificial intelligence tools or risk being overtaken by them.
The danger is when you don't use AI. That is where somebody who knows AI will take your job. Because now certification only tick the box. What is a differentiator is AI.
Well then, the future could be non-interest banking. We'll see how that plays out. You go for money.
I'd like that.
You love that, won't you?
Yes, I would.
A lot of people I know will also like that. And we'll look forward to the conversations that will surround it and when it does come out. Because it's been, if there's one individual I know who's mooted that idea for a very long time, it's actually been Professor John Gachi. And so no surprises there that he's the one who's been speaking to it again and is advising the Bank of Ghana on that tangent. But we'll see how all of that plays out. That's a bulletin for you today. I am Mawuena Egbeta.
And I am Kemini Amanor. We'll see you same time tomorrow. Next is the afternoon show. Bye-bye.